There's a lot of things. So buckle up. All right. You guys, I'm Joe Masciovecchio, Mark's son. You want to see a magic trick? Joe. And Mark's back. Thank you.
They're not thick enough.
Yeah, he has some thick glasses. The ones in the 70s. Which, by the way, why couldn't I get that facial hair? Like, he passed down a lot of great things to me. Could I have gotten the facial hair? You know, just something to connect to. This was thick. Occasionally, my father would bless me with stories from his childhood. From golfing with his grandpa Guido, or my grandpa Guido, his father. Hanging around town with John Potier. John, by the way, John came into the rescue today. Because something my dad and I share is we are not always organized. And I just want to thank John Potier for everything you've done, man. You've always been there for him. You've always been there for him. And I know he loves you very much. My dad would also talk about hiding in the ceilings at school and to the light of guardian angels. He would wave at his buddies, and he would terrorize innocent nuns who did nothing but choose to teach him. He was not the best student. My father's name was well known by many and correctly pronounced by few. Today I honor my father's academic career by writing this speech the night before it's due and just wishing for the best. In and outside of school, people recognize my father for his humor. Mark Masciovecchio commanded a room. He was the kind of guy who could have a good conversation with a tree. I remember at a very young age going to a wedding with my father and watching him visit every single table at that wedding. Every single one. And it wasn't just because he was invited to those tables, it's because he wanted to see everybody. And everybody he saw left with laughter. Decades later, I'm moving my dad's stuff out of his apartment. His neighbors would stop to tell me how much they were going to miss just randomly seeing Mark Masciovecchio, as there was never a dull conversation with that guy. Ever. You could call my dad a lot of things. Slow hand. He loved Eric Clapton. The Giorgio Armani of 90s Chiefs fashion. I've never seen someone wear 90s Chiefs fashion better than that guy. Or even the guy who owes me $10. But you could never call Mark Masciovecchio boring. He was never boring. For years, medical specialties called my father their top salesman. Mark was able to seamlessly combine his sense of humor with his sharp mind that his mother, Virginia, I knew her as Grammy, passed down to him to become a very successful medical salesman. This success brought a lot of money my dad's way, which meant more guitars, trips to Best Buy, and vacations to places with roller coasters. As a kid who was softer than 10-ply toilet paper, my dad would force me on every terrifying ride. From start to finish, my dad's hands were up in the air to enjoy every second of the thrill, as I grabbed hold for dear life and winced in misery. I thank my dad for that. Without my dad, Cousin Tony, Cousin Craig, I probably would have grown up to be the type of guy who would make a doormat look assertive. I thank those guys. For a long time, Tony and Craig were two people my dad loved even more than Oceans of Fun. And man, I can tell you, from 50,000 weekends there, he loved Oceans of Fun. That was until his three kids came along. So I'm sorry you guys lost your throne. Anthony, Amber, and myself, Joseph. Though we stole the title of Mark's affection, Craig, his wife Christy, and Tony would still allow us to come over and watch WWF pay-per-views. Some of you might be asking, what's a WWF? If so, you're probably a better person than me. And it's best to just tune out for the next minute because this part of the speech will be senseless to you. The WWF Attitude Era was one of the most ridiculous yet incredible shows to somehow exist on cable television in the 1990s. And my dad was the greatest ally I had in helping me hide from my mom and watch it. And I watched it on a weekly basis. As the dead man, The Undertaker, would say, rest in peace to a young Mark Mosh, who, as a teenager, saw the 7-foot, 520-pound Andre the Giant in person as he was working as an usher. He was an arm's length away, and he lived to tell about it. By My dad not only sneaked me off to watch wrestling with the cousins, that guy and I would sit in our underwear and play original NES wrestling games for hours. There are a lot of dads in this world who do just as much and even more with their kids. And I want to tell you, as a man in his mid-30s and a publicly open wrestling fan, those moments will be remembered and appreciated for a long time. While my father did not pass on to me his impeccable talent to cook, catch a baseball, or like I said earlier, grow some facial hair, I often hear from others that I carry some of my dad's greatest qualities. This is precisely how I hope I can honor the legacy of Mark Masciovecchio, by carrying on his humor, his quick wit, and one of the most genuine loves I've ever seen for people, especially strangers. And chief cheerleaders. He used to hand me the binoculars or something very responsible. My father, I shouldn't have said that one. My father was 64 when he passed away of natural causes in February of 2023. The week after, memories flooded back that brought me back to the first house I can remember us living in, a house on Avondale Street in Liberty, Missouri. The Laserdisc player was on its last run, but one of the most successful rock bands in the 1970s, and one of my father's favorite bands, the Eagles, had finally reunited. Every weekend we would have the Eagles, James Taylor, or Eric Clapton playing in that household. I loved it. I, to this day, love classic rock. Public disagreements over songwriting, credits, and royalties, substance abuse, and clashes over relationships led to the Eagles breaking up in 1980. However, in 1994, the Eagles brought the band back together. They brought the family back together. While their reunion tour filled our household with music, as my father often loved to do on a Saturday afternoon, I sat and played with action figures, listening to Don Henley sing one of his top hits, The Heart of the Matter. The inspiration for that song came from Henley's own experiences with heartbreak and the end of a long-term relationship. According to Henley, the song is, and I quote from the Henley, an attempt to understand why things happened the way they did, and to let go of some of the anger and resentment. There was a time when my dad, myself, our whole families were not all together, and we had to attempt to understand why things happened the way they did, and how to let go of that anger and resentment. When my father and I reunited last Christmas, we were given unexpected closure, and I was able to see that my dad knew without a shadow of a doubt that his kids never hated him. We never did, we never will. And my dad, even though he wanted to tell me sorry, he didn't have to. He didn't need to with me. And I will be grateful until the day I die for that. In his final chapter, Guardian Angels Perish, found my father found Jesus again. He told me this without prompt, he just told me. And did incredible work for this ministry and the food pantry it provides for the very neighborhood he grew up in. My father loved Kansas City, and he did so much work for the people who live here in the last chapters of his life. And hopefully that has paid the tab for all the nuns he annoyed as a As Don Henley said in The Heart of the Matter, I thought of all the bad luck and the struggles we went through, how I lost me and you lost you. What are these voices outside of love's open door? Make us throw off our contentment and beg for something more. I'm learning to live without you now, but I miss you sometimes. The more I know, the less I understand. All the things I thought I knew, I'm learning again. I've been trying to get down to the heart of the matter, but my will gets weak and my thoughts seem to scatter. But I think it's about forgiveness. Forgiveness. And as someone who's gotten to experience that joy of forgiveness, if there's anybody in here who needs some of that in their life, I highly recommend it. Because man, the burdens that we all place upon each other with our mistakes in life are too heavy to carry. So don't. Today, Mark Masciovecchio is no longer with us, but he leaves behind two reunited sisters, Jeannie and Jackie, his nephews, Craig and Tony, who are both highly successful leaders in their family. Once a year, you can't open the Kansas City Star without hearing about things Tony Cruz is doing in the community. You can't. He has a son, Anthony, who lives in a nicer apartment than me now, just got a promotion. He has his daughter, Amber, who is engaged and brought a beautiful little girl named Kinley into this world. And I can sit and talk about all these people sitting right here, but the speech will start getting longer than our last name. My father also got to leave behind his personal battles with mental and physical illnesses. Mark Masciovecchio is free now. And I guarantee you, even in the afterlife, he's walking table to table, making people laugh. Rest in peace, Dad, and may your love of life and laughter continue to shine within the lives of those who know you. Thank you.